the Breeders' Cup Classic, featuring some of the best older horses in training. As always, the marquee event of the Breeders' Cup with a $6 million purse at the Classic American Racing distance of 1.25 miles. Wide open, McKinzie for trainer Bob Baffert, installed as a 3-1 morning line favorite.
You were just saying this. Does it feel very similar to last year with Accelerate? How
Nobody liked Accelerate, and
Nobody
he was the favorite, and he won,
liked
and that's how it feels with McKinzie.
But will we see that, though? Because I don't necessarily believe we will. I have a big question mark with McKinzie and if he can handle the distance. He may be the best horse in the race at a mile and a 16th, a mile and an eighth, but I'm not convinced 1.25 miles.
And is he the most progressive horse in the race? Is he the horse open to most improvement? And you could argue, no, he's not. That honour probably goes the way of Code of Honour, who's an exciting 3-year-old. And I think Connections might realistically have been expecting him to be targeted for the Breeders' Cup next year.
3-year-olds have struggled something awful coming out west for Breeders' Cup Classics. It's like over 23, over 20. They've really struggled. This has been a tall order for 3-year-olds coming west.
But what do you make of the fact that initially Shug McGahee, trainer of Code of Honor, was not going to run him in the Breeders' Cup Classic, but felt he deserved the shot, which is why he is here? How much do we read into that?
Well, first he was doing it because he felt that disadvantage of the East Coast horses coming out west. Shug McGahee, Hall of Fame trainer. So maybe you look at it from the opposite and say, well, maybe Code of Honor is just doing that well that he convinced Shug McGahee to bring him out here.
Surely Shug just looked at the field and thought, I've got to go with this horse now. You look at the owners. The owners had, you'll remember the horse Mineshaft a few years ago. He was going to come to the Breeders' Cup. They made a late decision, then he got an injury, and he couldn't make the Breeders' Cup Classic. I think sometimes with racehorses, with thoroughbreds, if they're in good form, you have to strike while the iron's hot. There's no use waiting another year.
Hey, Nick, there are a lot of people that think Code of Honor is going to be the second favorite in this race behind McKinzie. So if you're Shug, you're going, look, why not? Exactly. Why not this year, right?
Exactly. You've got to strike in a field this open, in a field with relatively little depth in terms of real quality. I think you've got to give it a go.
Wait, isn't it the year for why not? You look at Math Wizard, who won the Pennsylvania Derby, giving Safi Joseph Jr. his very first Grade 1 victory, drew the rail, big price, but why not? Why not us? Why not now?
Why not a mare? How about a late for trainer Bill Mott, skipping the distaff, feeling that she's best at 1.25 miles. One of the biggest arguments against McKinzie, that he doesn't thrive at 1.25 miles. A late, trying to join Zenyatta, is just the second mare ever to win a Breeders' Cup Classic.
Wouldn't that be a fairy tale? They pointed towards this race just because of what you mentioned, the 1.25 mile distance. She's been beaten by Midnight Bijou, who will be the favorite in the distaff race. I like her in this race. She looks like a beast. She fits physically, mentally, and numbers-wise with this field.
And she's trained by Bill Mott, trainer of the Great Cigar, trainer also of Drosselmeyer, who won the Breeders' Cup Classic at Churchill Downs in 2011. He's booked Mike Smith to ride his other horse, Yoshida, so that's a nice little bit of human intrigue. Yoshida with Mike Smith, taken off McKinzie. If Yoshida comes and passes McKinzie inside the last furlong.
Drama.
You see me now, Bob?
How do I look now, Nick? Is that what you're saying?
It's a movie ready to be made.
What do you guys think? Again, it's one of the most wide-open classics we've ever seen. What do you think?
I think the interesting thing to me, and I think maybe really quickly, like, what do you think the favorite's going to be price-wise? I think the favorite's going to be probably in that 3.5 to 7-2 range.
Yeah, I was going to say,
fair?
you're 3-1 morning line favorite. I think that's pretty darn close.
Right.
I'm not convinced that it's going to be McKinzie. It could very easily be Code of Honor.
What do you guys think? What do you think the favorite of the price will be? The price of the favorite?
Well, you've got the Bob Baffert factor, don't you?
Yeah,
so that's going to
sure.
drop the price a bit.
3-time Breeders' Cup Classic winner in Baffert. They trust.
So is that what is that?
I think there's going to be
5-2? Are you saying?
3-1, and I think there's going to be an overcompensation. I think
point.
everybody's going to look at the tote board, see that McKenzie's overlaid, and then a lot of late money show up just because you're not going to let Baffert get away with the horse who on paper was a morning line favorite going
Which is what we saw last year in the Classic, where initially Accelerate actually opened up as the second choice behind Catholic Boy. Ultimately, the market corrected itself.
Right.
Accelerate goes off favored and wins.
All right, Maddie. Well, what do you think? A full field. Interesting pace dimension in this race, I believe.
Yeah.
So where are you leaning?
This is as tepid a pick as you're going to find, because I frankly don't really like any of them. I had a really hard time deciphering it.
All right, well, then I'm going to go then. Okay,
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Look, I can see
positive over here.
I could see 9 of the 11 winning. I think it's that wide open.
9?
Ultimately, really,
I want to know what the two are.
I wouldn't be surprised.
That aren't going to win.
I'm not going to do
Come
that.
on, Matty B.
I'm not going to upset any connections.
Come on.
No.
Okay.
We can talk about it tomorrow or on Saturday afternoon. I ultimately landed with the big girl. I'm going to go with the late.
Wow.
1.25 miles. I'm not concerned about that loss at Keeneland most recently.
Neither's Bill Mott.
Some horses like that track. Some horses don't, whether it's the turf or the dirt. I'm just going to chalk it up and say that was nothing more than a prep. This was always the goal. She might not be the favorite. She might not be the second choice. If you get that 6-1, I wonder if some people have started to kind of cool off on her. By default, I'm going to go with the late.
This is really hard for me because Code of Honor was my horse at the Derby, and when we were at the Haskell, our delayed Haskell show with no horse racing until later in the day, I told people that I thought Code of Honor was sitting on a huge summer and was going to be one of the top 3 favorites come the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Are you jumping off?
I am jumping off.
Oh,
wow.
bad move. We've seen this before.
Bad move. Well,
Loyalty.
bad move.
Loyalty.
I love Shug. I love Johnny.
now
right?
he's gonna win.
Johnny chose that, right? Look at. The only reason I'm going to Vino Rosso is proven on the track.
Yeah.
To me, the distance, we know what happened in the last race, a disqualification in the last race between Vino Rosso and Code of Honor. It's hard for me. I am using the 11 underneath. There is no doubt. So if it comes in 10-11 or 10-all-11, you better back up the Brinks truck because I'm going to town that day.